Hello, everybody. I'm Harry Box. I'm the PERG manager, and today we're to be talking about the GFX ETERNA 55 and the growing accessibility of 65 millimeter large format. First of all, let me thank our sponsors: Applied Entertainment and Sports, ARRI, NFP, Sony, and Taylor and Taylor. And we are delighted to have with us Scott Testerman, the technical marketing manager for Fujifilm, with us today. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Scott.
Hi, everybody. As Harry said, I'm Scott Testerman. I'm the technical marketing manager for Fujifilm. A couple of my colleagues may also join here. I'll be going through a short deck here, and then we'll open it up for questions afterward. And if any of my colleagues, they may jump in here and there and answer some of those questions as well. So what we wanted to do is just start the conversation here with you all about GFX ETERNA 55. It launched late last year, and it's been in the market for a little while now. And we're starting to see a lot more traction with the camera across the board. A couple weeks ago, we were just at Cinegear, and it was a fantastic event for everybody. It was nice to see some old friends out there in Los Angeles. I'm based in Florida, so it was nice to get out there and see everybody. And we had the camera up with a bunch of different setups there, a bunch of different lenses, and we were showcasing a lot of glass on there. And it was a lot of fun to be back in that space out there at Universal. So what makes GFX ETERNA 55 special? And I think one of the marquee features is the sensor itself and the size of the sensor. And what we really are starting to see here is the accessibility of large format cinematography. If we go back a number of years, obviously with the Red Monstro and large format, the Alexa LF coming out, the price points of those cameras had started to creep up over the years. And so with ours, with the GFX ETERNA 55, with the price point and the style of the system, it's becoming a lot more accessible for cinematographers and camera assistants and everybody to get into large format. What's great about ETERNA 55, though, is that the sensor itself is a native aspect ratio of 1:3 to 1, which we feel is very, very comfortable and familiar for folks. This slide here just kind of gives you a sense of the scale of the sensor. It's about 3 times the size of Super 35. And one of the great things that we also had happen since its release is that the camera did become IMAX certified. Just to go over a few more steps about the formats that are in the camera. So just like various other cinema cameras out there, we do have different sensor crop modes. For us, that creates format flexibility. So whether you're using Super 35 glass all the way up to glass that can cover the large format, we feel that there's a multitude of ways to use the camera. So on the screen here, you'll see GF Open Gate, and that's our full open area, large format sensor mode. But as we come down, you'll see that there's a multitude of other ways to shoot with the camera. So GF 4K just simply crops it into a 17:9 area. But if you see Premista there, that's actually harkening back to our Premista line of cinema lenses. So that mode is specifically built for those lenses. Of course, 35 millimeter DCI 4K on the screen there. That one's our full frame or VistaVision sized recording area. And the 8K crop of the sensor here is actually a photosight for photosight, but you'll notice that it's just about a little bit larger than our Super 35 area. And so we just call it Super 35 Plus there. One of the great things about the size of our sensor is the height of the sensor. So as I think most of you have noticed and seen with the announcement of Sony's new camera, the new sensor for the Venice, is that it's also a very tall sensor. What this lends for anamorphic shooting is that we can take full advantage of that anamorphic height on most of the glass, and then that gives us a much wider angle of view on the east to west. So this diagram here is just to show you the sensor size in relation to 15 perf 65. So the blue here is 15 perf, and this is the GFX ETERNA 55, and then of course 4 perf, and then the 5 perf 65 in there. The outside lines here are just to show, using the same focal length of lens on multiple formats, if it's an anamorphic lens on our system, you'll notice that you get a much wider angle of view. One of the things that's unique to Fujifilm is our color science. So for many, many, many years, we've had in our stills cameras what we call film simulations. And the film simulations are built off of decades worth of color science to build actual simulations that replicate film stocks from days gone by. The beautiful thing about Eterna is that we include all of those film simulations as dedicated Rec 709 outputs that you can record natively in camera. And so straight out of camera, you get great color just from the film simulations alone. However, Eterna also includes our wide color gamut and log curve called F-log2C and F-gamut-C. With those, you get all of the dynamic range, all of the color still built in, but we also have introduced for the first time film simulation 3D LUTs that can be applied to F-log2C, both in monitoring and in post. So you can preserve all of the dynamic range if you want, or use some of our film simulations built in to create content that's very, very quick turnaround and straight out of camera. The camera itself is built to be very production friendly. So on both sides of it are menu screens so that the operator and the assistant have access to the same settings. In addition, there's a built-in variable ND that drops in at 2 stops and goes all the way to 7 stops, and it moves in 0.015 steps, so 20th of a stop increments. It's almost visually stepless there. The body also has industry standard connections, SDI, full-size HDMI. There's a full-size timecode BNC. There's a Genlock input BNC, full-size Ethernet. It's native V-mount, as you see there, but a lot of third-party manufacturers have developed other D boxes and other things for gold mount and other battery types. The media in the camera is CF Express Type B. SD cards are also allowed in there. The camera has a fun little tidbit from us is that it has our own small W235 battery as an accessory item as well. So what you can do if you boot the camera just from the W235 battery, you can actually run it on just that simple 7.2 volt battery for about 20 to 30 minutes. It will turn off some of the functions like SDI and some Ethernet, but you'll still be able to see out of the LCD and record clips just using that. The camera itself, when the camera's purchased, you get the full control top handle, you get the LCD and the LCD arm, and it also comes native with a PL mount. The body itself is G mount, so all of our great G mount lenses and the new 32 to 90 live on the can work on the camera natively. But if you have PL glass and also third parties are developing LPL mounts as well, it kind of covers the gamut for lenses. And just one other tidbit we wanted to talk about is that 32 to 90. So this is a T35 power zoom. It's actually one of the first that we've built for the GF lens line, and it was built specifically for Eterna 55. So it has gearing on the focus, iris, and zoom, but you can also run the focus, iris, and zoom directly from the camera. If I go back a slide here, you'll notice on the front here, we've got this front control wheel. It's also on the top handle. That can control the 32 to 90. Individually, you can control focus, iris, or zoom, depending upon how you have that switch set up. It can also control the variable ND as well, so you can crank through from 0.6 to 2.1. But again, the gearing is also there so that if you're using an external focus system, you can control it, and it does have hard stops so that assistants can mount their motos as they see fit. And just at the end of this, we do have a couple of links, some other items on here if you want to explore more. There's a full white paper that's available that describes F-log2C and F-gamut-C, as well as SDI metadata that's recorded internally in the camera. Full manual, of course. We've got some case studies and various other items to help explore. There's also a menu simulator that is available on our X site, and that's also linked within this deck as well. So with that, if I have any of my colleagues on and they want to add anything, otherwise we can open it up for questions, and happy to answer what you got.
Scott, I'm wondering if it's gotten into the hands of DPs and if they have reported back what kinds of applications they are finding it useful for.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of large productions out of the UK that I unfortunately can't say the name of because then I will get in trouble. But there are a number of large productions out there that are using it currently. It's been used on a couple of commercials here natively in the US. We've got one that was I think it was a Budweiser commercial for the Super Bowl. Of course, it's been out on countless other small productions, short films, music videos, and that sort over the last number of months as well. But I think most of the time, what they're looking at, what people love about it is, of course, the sensor size, and for them, it's that ease of getting that shallow depth of field. We know that we can get a similar look across the board on any number of formats, but it's a lot easier on something of this large size to be able to get that shallow depth of field and that large format look. So just IMAX certification as of now. We don't have any word yet on any of the other streamers.
Your G series lenses,
Mhm.
is that the same lenses that are on your medium format still cameras?
Yes, yeah. So all of the G mount lenses will function on the camera. The 32 to 90 was just built specifically for it since it has the gearing on there for focus, iris, and zoom. But yes, all of our G mount lenses will function on the camera, and they fully cover all of those as well.
If I could chime in there, it's worth mentioning that that GF32 to 90 is the only one that has an internal servo for zoom. So our other zoom lenses would function with iris and optical image stabilization, and then autofocus. But the zoom on those is mechanical. So that 32 to 90 is the only one where that zoom rocker that you saw on the top handle, or being able to control zoom with the front or top dials, it requires that internal servo. But
Thank
yes, the rest of them will work as intended.
Matthew, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, sorry. I'm one of Scott's colleagues, but yes, I work on the same team as Scott with Fujifilm. So I've been working with Eterna since before it came out, and yeah, I had the privilege. Somebody asked about the types of production, so I had the privilege of going out on a doc style shoot with it, um, and just to share some insight there. Something that I found really helpful about it is that while it's built in that traditional cinema camera box style look, and it has that full control side on the AC side, this was a small dock, and space was at a premium. So we had two cameras, two operators, no ACs. So we were, pulling focus for ourselves with like control handles on shoulder rig and that sort of thing. So having all of that control on the operator side was really critical to our success, especially in a dock setting where we needed to be able to react. We were doing fly fishing and that sort of stuff. So being able to react to spur of the moment things, and still be able to capture that without any help, essentially, was really critical. And then the top handle that comes with it. I know Scott mentioned it, but it's like it's the best manufacturer provided top handle I've ever felt. Both for the rigidity, the structure, the form, and ergonomics of it, but also all of the controls that are up there. As a single operator, allows you to control run, stop, autofocus area, zoom, focus, iris, the internal ND. You can even place an audio box on the front there, and with no additional cables, just run audio from that hot shoe into the camera, and have it placed on the footage to kind of speed up that post workflow as well. So it was, it's, I think that large sensor and the look that comes out of it does kind of lend itself initially to like a narrative storytelling um, sort of look, but for the right dock application as an operator, it's a super powerful tool as well.
And what back is required for live capture? Is it a Fuji only, or does it also work with things like the multi-dyne?
So right now we've been talking to partners about doing fiber backs, but we haven't had any sort of integration just yet through that. but knowing the standards that we've got on there for Genlock, time code, and everything else, it's a possibility. But as far as control via an RCP, we haven't really had full discussions just yet on that.
Hello, Gaston here with HD House in Miami. I have a quick question. How did Fuji integrate its celluloid development experience with the new concept of emulsions in the new Eterna camera? How's the link with the history of Fuji and the emulsions on camera now?
So for us, of course, Fujifilm has decades worth of know-how in both motion picture film and stills film. And so the color science behind every one of those film stocks is what's built into the film simulations here. And that also goes double for F-Log2C and F-Gamut-C. All of those were designed to give creative freedom and to also give the maximum amount of color fidelity for the creatives. So they've been developing motion picture stock, since the 30s, and obviously most recently, in the more recent motion picture stocks, of course, were the Eterna stocks that were built for DI. But we've taken all of that in addition to the stills side of things and put that into this camera.
I actually have a question for the rental house representatives that are here. So I was intrigued to hear the question about the back for live. That was not, I think, something that, as Scott indicated, we don't manufacture a back for this camera. But I was kind of surprised how frequently we were getting that question at both NAB and Cinegear, even last year before the camera came out. That was kind of a thing. So I'm curious to hear from your end on the rental side. Do you think that this large sensor is that's a space where this camera would be successful, specifically this camera beyond any other item that you guys offer or camera package that you may have?
Well, it's Peter. I asked that question. Just curious in terms of the product direction you're going in. I think when thinking about live capture today, the larger sensor isn't necessarily going to be as advantageous as it is in cinema. But was just wondering, since you have other parts of your product line that are moving in that direction, what your long-term thinking was.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a great question. It's just I like to hear the background behind it, especially since it's come up. You're not the first person to ask that question. So as it comes to product development and what direction we do want to take it, I'm trying to just gather feedback and see if that is something that that is worth exploring in the future. So thank you.
There were a couple of questions in the chat, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody heard them. The question was what the power source or what the voltage is. It's a 14-volt system, not 26. And recording media, again, is CF Express Type B, but we can record externally RAW to an Atomos recorder in ProRes RAW. And then the frame rates are in open gate, it's 48 FPS is max. If we window down to that full width area, it's 5994, and if we go down to HD, it's up to 120.
Really quick, Scott. Everyone, John Blackwood here. I'm also with Fujifilm. Did we touch on the power efficiency of the camera, talking about voltage?
We just talked about the voltage. We didn't.
Okay. I mean, one huge selling point of the camera, from a operational standpoint, whether it's assistants or anyone working with the camera, is that it's super power efficient, which is really illustrated by the fact that it can run on the internal battery. It's a 7.2 volt battery that runs the camera for about 20 minutes to a half an hour, depending on your settings. But it's 21 volts nominal, or I'm sorry, 21 watts nominal. So it's incredibly power efficient. An onboard battery can last you hours with the camera, and all external power also charges that internal battery. So the power efficiency is one of kind of the unsung, really unique value propositions of the camera.
If I could jump in on that. I'm Sean, also with Fujifilm. So I've operated the camera with 50 watt hour batteries in like excess of around like an hour or so. So you could definitely see like 98-volt or even 150 volt batteries for lasting like a multitude of hours, depending on the build that you have. But that's also dependent on what sort of accessories that you're powering, but extremely power efficient.
Yeah, Scott, Gaston is asking, do you have any approved expander to use FF lenses on the Eterna open gate sensor?
Are we talking for third parties or just for PL or LPL? So nothing that is necessarily approved, as long as the expander works on G mount and the flange distance and all that is there. It's kind of up to them. But the flange distance on G mount is relatively short, so we just have to keep that in mind. So it's 26.7 millimeters for the G mount.
If I may also jump on that, I was able to utilize IBE's full framed VistaVision adapter or expander, and that works quite well. Also, I'm blanking on the name. Was it Mishugi or Mishubi or something like that? I don't think they manufacture them anywhere anymore, but they're in rental houses. That one also works quite well. But definitely IBE's VistaVision expander covers our sensor.
Thank you, Sean.
I'll jump in with one last thing there. There's a couple of expanders from Keepon for different lens series that go from traditional like medium format film lenses to G mount that do basically make use of the extra light there and kind of act as a speed booster as well. So there's a couple of different options that keep on, and I think Photodiox may have some as well. Christoher Gilbert, I'll read his since he just chimed in. So there's Laowa has an EF and Nikon F to G as well. So there's quite a bit of third-party support for getting a wide range of lenses. Yeah, the expander, I think it's a 1.3 from Keepon that I've seen quite a few people using to get some kind of unique looking glass on the camera.
Just to add to that, though, what we've seen since the camera was announced, and even at Cinegear last year, over the last year, is the amount of lenses and manufacturers that are willing to jump into large format cinematography lenses has grown exponentially. I mean, just at Cinegear, we had a whole separate camera that was built just to take advantage of third-party lenses, and we were showcasing all the different glass on the camera there. And so I just at our booth, I had lenses from Nisi, Iron Glass, Atlas. We had even a Panavision Primo 65 that was lended to us for the show. Caldwell, and I know now also during the show we saw the announcement of Zeiss's new Panoptes large format as well. So I think the question of what covers the sensor is starting to get expanded upon, just with other manufacturers developing new glass as well for the system or for large format in general, which is something that we're very excited to see, both anamorphic and spherical. And the comment was put in here: is it the same loud during the process of filming like a traditional IMAX film? No. Luckily, no. The fan system built into the camera is actually very, very quiet and very, very efficient as well. We usually leave it on its normal setting the whole time, and it's a very, very low decibel level. Even during Cinegear, when it was really, really hot outside.
Yeah, to that point, we our partners at Zero Optic had a body that they literally did not turn off from like I think it was 8 a.m. until or like 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. and they had like a spot that was directly in the sun, and they did not turn the camera once off, and they had zero overheating or freezing or anything like that. Perfect operation, and when I walked over there, it was like barely even making a sound at all. It's quite efficient. And that was like a 80 to 85 degree day both days. And also, while we were talking about the lenses, I actually grabbed one a Minolta Roker lens that I have. I have a few of these from this set, and you can see just how small of a lens this guy actually is, 55-1.7, and actually covers our open gate sensor. Soft vignetting on the side, but very acceptable for shooting, and up until I think around 28 millimeters. So I think that just goes to show the diversity of lenses that we can actually put onto our system and how easy it is to mount onto our sensor, and the unique characteristics that we can see from these lenses that previously we weren't able to.
Yeah, Scott, I actually just thought of something else. So I know you covered kind of the different formats and GF, Premista, 35 millimeter and down to Super 35. I'm not sure if you mentioned one little bit of information that I like sharing with people, is that because the resolution of the sensor is almost 12,000 pixels wide, no matter which one of these options you choose, you still can deliver at least 4K resolution, which I guess it kind of shows there, but I like to call it out, because even as you're windowing down to something like Super 35, where you're essentially only using like a quarter of the sensor, you still have that necessary resolution to deliver, what's demanded in today's world. So I found that very powerful, and it kind of blends into the conversation about lenses and coverage and what you can use. It really finding things that cover the full sensor is the fun part, but knowing that the camera itself is not limiting you on what you can use, and you don't have to have that expander in order to use the full frame set of lenses or Super 35 set of lenses that you want to use for your production. Gives people a lot of different options. So it's definitely we call it kind of a Swiss Army knife of formats. It's I'm sure that's trademarked, and I'm probably not allowed to say that officially, but you know, it's you get the idea.
Sorry, Sean, I just see Gaston's message in there about the lens metadata. So it's /I. We're working on compatibility for more lenses as we go. Right now, it's working with purely with Premista lenses and some of our Duvos. But that's coming hopefully in a future firmware update.
And what's great about it is also that you can actually, if you go in and you go through all the different formats, you can pre-list them at UHD, 4K UHD at specific like 16:9, and our firmware will remember what resolution setting you had, so you can actually cycle through all the formats, and it'll be the same format every single time. And so you could hot button that menu item and then go through. So let's say, going back to what we're talking about docs, how unique of a proposition that might be. Let's say you're out in the wilderness and you only have one set of lenses, or you only have one lens on, and there's just a shot that you have to capture and you don't have time for a lens swap. In effect, it's like having multiple focal length options, and you don't have to worry about your resolution capturing.
Sorry, I see the other comment in here. Isn't it a no, it's not a silly question. So, I think a lot of third parties have developed focus aids and focus systems, follow focus systems that have helped with this large format move. I think one of the biggest ones we saw obviously was Preston's development of the Light Ranger. There are other ways to help with that. The camera, of course, has its own focusing elements in there, like peaking and some of the stuff that we've had for a long time. But yes, I think third-party tools and having a great first camera assistant and focus puller, it's definitely key for some of that. But the camera also has natively built into it as autofocus with our 32-90 and some of our GF lenses. And for a large format system to have autofocus like that, it's kind of a novel thing. And something that works really well, especially with our 32-90 and the ability for it to grab focus constantly in there. So I think one of the things that we really want to stress is that Eterna is our first filmmaking camera, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be the last. But we're very, very hopeful that this continues, and we're very excited to be back in this space. Of course, we don't have anything to announce as of yet, but we're very, very hopeful that the filmmaking community embraces Eterna and that it grows from there. And as far as examples to see with the camera, I mean, we do have we do have some things that were filmed with it, both on our YouTube and via some of the other third parties that have shot with it. I don't have direct links to some of those. We do have some of the short films as well that were shot with it for launch, and those are linked in here if we want to. And those are also up on our YouTube sites as well. I don't know, John or Matt, do we have any links to some of the stuff that was shot by some of the third parties as well? Matt, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can put some links in there. I do also know that there's a few things that there might be a trailer or something so you can kind of get a glimpse of what it looks like, but there's some stuff that's going to festivals this year because obviously the camera's only been out for about 6 months. So a lot of the content that's been made with it is still making its rounds and is not officially released in its full capacity. So, but there is quite a bit out there that you can see. It's just not full-length films yet, because they're kind of being reserved for premieres.
Working on test footage, so we're hopeful to have some of that here at a later date, just so that it'll be downloadable for everybody.
Can I share something with you guys? Like, I don't know, many months ago, Fuji came with the camera to show to my place, and we look at the camera. There was the software wasn't perfect at that time. It was like maybe, I don't know, 10 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that. But the funny thing, I was expecting to like just a couple of my glass to to at least cover. I'm not saying they're gonna they're gonna perfectly work on a medium format camera, but I was just looking for coverage, just to for lenses to no vignette, and I was extremely surprised. Like I was like I don't want to say, but maybe 70 or 80% of the glass that I own, different brands, different focal lengths, they all cover. I'm not saying that it's going to work. I know those are, maybe full frame lenses and whatever you have from the full frame area to the to the medium format area. It's not doesn't have the characteristic that's supposed to have. But just as a note, I was surprised. Like it was very hard for me to find a full frame lens that vignettes on the camera. That just want to share that.
No, that's a great point. Well, what we've noticed is that lens manufacturers tend to be a little conservative in what they define as the coverage versus the actual illumination circle. And that's just, I think, a great benefit for all of us is that some of that, of course, is going to be to taste, depending upon how much fall off we get in the corners. And you can see that a lot with a waveform. But what's great is that, yes, a lot of things do cover, even if they say they don't, which is a fantastic thing to just keep testing, keep checking, and you might be surprised by what was actually manufactured and delivered versus what was actually said about it. Yeah, again, we just always tell everyone to test, but we were very surprised by even some of the lenses that came into the booth that people were testing with Eterna here recently at Cinegear, that were built for full frame and maybe only 43 millimeter image circle, but they covered completely. I'm sure if we really looked into it with a waveform, you would see some fall off, but perceptually they looked fantastic on there.
Yeah, and it's kind of speaking to that, I've also had a couple cinematographers kind of get back to me where they said, yeah, like the extreme corners were vignetting pretty hard, but since they were delivering in 16:9 or 9:16, they were able to still use the lenses because in either cut, they still had coverage on either the top or sides, just not the corners. So that was like a unique comment that some people have kind of come to me with, that even if you get that open gate not fully covered, use 16:9 and 9:16 are still usable in vast majority of the cases.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott, and everybody, Sean and Matthew and Christopher. Thanks for everybody for making this presentation today and showing us this camera. It's very exciting. Yeah, we'll follow up.